sets up on the left. Play clock at 5. Pass is
You're listening to In the Huddle AU. Welcome to In the Huddle, episode 4. Finally, week 2. Interesting week. Some big wins and some key injuries along the way. Unfortunately, no correct guesses for our Thursday night game competition that we had with the Sign Footy. So we'll make sure we roll it over to a competition this week. So what we're looking for this week is the final score for this week's Thursday night game, Redskins versus Giants. So make sure that you submit your answers or your guesses to Twitter or Facebook so that we can kind of keep a tally. So let's move on here and discuss this past weekend's games. Drew up first. Steelers light up the Niners.
Yeah, so Ben Roethlisberger, if you had him on your fantasy team, you'd probably be jumping for joy right now. He was 21 passes, 369 yards, and 3 touchdowns. If you can get that kind of output for a quarterback every week, you'll be laughing. I think the Steelers probably a good chance to really push for title spot. I'm just going to go ahead and put it out there now. Even with a little bit of a slow start, the Steelers look really good. Jared Hayne also played against the 49ers. In case you're wondering, he had 2 rushes for 3 yards, 1 return for 7 yards. Pretty lackluster, but it is the NFL. So, what do you
Drew, I've got a question for you, and it's Tom here. It's good to be back, but it's also without Bryant and Bell as well. They're putting up some big numbers, the Steelers, so geez, they're going to be impressive when those two get back.
Yeah, their offense is really good, and also the thing about the Steelers, when the season gets moving on, it starts to get really cold at home for them, and a lot of teams aren't used to the chill and the noise in Pittsburgh. So that is a real weapon that they have on the sideline there.
What happens to D'Angelo Williams now? Le'Veon Bell's back. Williams has just scored 3 touchdowns.
Well,
he just goes and rides the fence.
Yeah, well, I definitely don't think he gets sat. I think
I do.
All right, he. When you're talking about sat as opposed to being subbed out, I think that they will probably start with Bell, see how Bell goes. If he's
kidding, are you? I think he'll get 5 touches max.
All pro, well, not probably.
Bell will get the ball.
You know when he
they'll
doesn't
see
get the
how
ball?
he goes and see how his contact is, and then if he is not good, they'll put Williams.
You
in.
know when Bell doesn't get the ball?
When
When
he's-
Big Ben throws the thing. That's the only time he does not get the ball.
Fair enough, but if you have 2 running backs, look, Williams has done a fantastic job.
Yes, he has.
And so if you have 2 running backs like that, you give Bell the ball, you ride the horse, just like they did with Jerome Bettis. They are fantastic. If you have those 2 running backs, you bash the ball,
They're not blocking
and
it,
then
unfortunately.
they play up, and Roethlisberger throws over the top. The guy had 369 yards, 3 touchdowns. You've got an embarrassment of riches right now on offense for the Steelers.
All right, Drew, next game. How about fortunes reversed here? We had what do you call him, the academic Mariota and Jameis with a change of fortunes. How did that
Drew.
work?
Yeah, Drew.
Yeah, well, look, it was another battle between 2 Heisman winners with Mariota and Manziel. It was a pretty fun game to watch, actually. Mariota kind of had a stinker, didn't he? Manziel had 2 bombs, 1 for 60, 1 for 50. He scrambled around at the end of the game, kind of like you like for him to do. Mariota still had 21 completions, 357 yards, and 2 touchdowns, but he was sacked 7 times. So I wouldn't necessarily blame Mariota for the reverse of fortune. And Jameis, look, man, Jameis just balls. Like, sometimes plays break down, he rolls out of the huddle.
Hang on.
Last week he was a little too confident.
Last week, he was way too confident. Now he's a baller.
The guy's from Hueytown, Alabama. I've been a hater because he went to Florida State, and all the time I talked trash about him, and then he won a national championship, and now he had a stinker of a second week.
And you're ready to write him off.
I was ready to write him off, but it's the NFL, man. It's why they say any given Sunday.
Wow.
Any given Sunday, a team can play. If your offensive line isn't blocking for you, you can't throw passes, and that's what happened with Tennessee.
And Tommy would have been pretty upset with this one. Brady putting on a show against Buffalo.
It was magic.
Yes.
Brennan.
Well, I think the biggest thing from the weekend was how stacked the Bills' defense was apparently, and Rex was puffing out his chest, but Big Tommy B went in there and had 466 yards, 3 TDs, and certainly handed a few off to little Louie as well, my boy. I've picked up in my fantasy this week, if none of you guys have noticed.
That was his second most passing yards of his career. That one there.
For
Yeah.
Brady, really?
Yeah, 466. Yeah.
So he dead set sliced him.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see what happens with Lewis as well. I mean, he's had 2 really good games, but he's also had 2 games where he's had fumbles. So, Bill doesn't put up with fumbles, Drew, and be interesting to see if he sits him or he just keeps rolling with him.
I reckon he'll still roll with him.
Yeah.
He'll give
They
him
don't
another.
really have a choice to that.
Yeah, he'll give him one more shot, and then I reckon he'll pull the chain. If it seems to be something that's just a normal thing that's happening, he doesn't put up with it. You're correct.
And then it was a week for wide receivers, and they went
ham.
Whoa.
well done.
Hopefully everyone knows what that means. As hard as.
Shout out Kanye West.
Exactly. Last week was the week of the tight ends. 22 touchdowns, I believe, for tight ends last week. And this week we had Julio Jones went off against the Giants, well over 130 yards.
God, he's amazing, isn't he?
Odell Beckham in the same match, he had 146 in one score. He had that early too. I was playing against him in fantasy this week, and I was pretty scared. Fortunately, they kept him to 146, which is a good result. Antonio Brown, 195.
Oh man, that guy, he's amazing. There's a reason why I read in the early part of the fantasy draft that you should take Antonio Brown as your first pick of the draft, and he's showing the reason why.
Did you do so? Or?
I did not.
Okay.
The only negative, I suppose, for Antonio Brown is he's going to get. They're going to be handing the ball off to D'Angelo when Bell doesn't get it, so he'll lose a bit of time there.
True. Larry Fitzgerald turned back the clock with first 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, he looked really good on my fantasy bench.
And then
Fantastic.
what about this? The Raiders duo of Amari Cooper and Michael Crabtree both had a touchdown and both went for over 100 yards.
Oh, my boy, Derek Carr.
So Derek Carr was getting that thing to him. And then Allen Robinson in Jacksonville was a really impressive win. He went for 145 and 2.
How does this happen with Jacksonville? Everybody knows that Jacksonville's going to lose every game, and then they do something like that.
Well, the Whiteouts got it done this week.
God almighty.
Touching on that,
certainly did.
Touching on that though, Josh, I'm going to give you these numbers. Murray had 2 yards, Ivory 57, Gore 57, Lynch 41, Ingram 53,
Wow.
Abdullah 9,
9.
Jeremy Hill 39. They are some numbers from running backs who aren't getting much of the rock.
True. I think those they go hand in hand. I mean, the wideouts were getting the job done, so the quarterbacks are throwing the ball.
Also, you'll find out with the running backs not getting the ball a lot. If you get behind in points, you got to start throwing the rock. You're not going to. It's the NFL. You're not going to try to run the ball to dictate what's going to happen. If you get behind in points, you just got to start flinging it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, they are concerning numbers a little bit. Frank Gore, I thought he played a little bit better than those 50-odd yards they show. He had a couple of 15-yard runs early in the game. Both were brought back via flags. So, yeah, keep tabs on the running back situation. There could be a change of hand in Cincinnati. Jeremy Hill didn't play a single snap for the last 22 minutes of the game. And my man from North Carolina, Giovanni Bernard, took over, had 123 yards. So, thankfully, I have him.
Moving on from that NFC matchup, Hawks and Pack. Josh?
Yes, well, NFC title game from last year, and a lot of people think it'll be the same this year. I mean, Seattle, the problems are starting to become real. I mean, you can't, in any one single game, they can be excused for losing to Green Bay, especially at Lambeau, where Aaron Rodgers is untouchable, and also losing at St. Louis week 1 is understandable. But to be 0-2, I think it's a little bit about the way they're going about it. Marshall Lynch is not having any success.
Boy, they have
running
got
the ball.
no push off the offensive line. It is really horrid.
Jimmy Graham had 1 catch. We knew that he was going to his output was going to be diminished a little bit. But to have 1 catch in the game is when they were behind 2 and they need to throw the ball. So I think the only real bright spark from that game for Seattle was Russell Wilson. He got hot in the second half and moved the ball with ease. But they got the Bears this week. If they lose to those guys, then they might tear CenturyLink apart.
Yeah, you'll know if the Seahawks lose to the Bears, there's going to be mayhem going up in the
Seattle as a city may explode and you'll never be able to go home.
It definitely may. And I think just one of the unfortunate things that occurred in that game was Lacey. Let's talk about some injuries here, Josh.
Yes. Lacey turned an ankle. I mean, dozens of guys in the NFL, NBA, any sport, they turn an ankle from week to week. So hopefully
That's not going to be right.
It was serious enough to keep him out of the game, which I found fairly pleasing coming up against him in fantasy. But he should be all right. Alshon Jeffrey was an interesting one. He had to sit out. He's looks a little nicked up already. He's got a calf and a hamstring complaint, so they need to get him back. Teammate Jay Cutler. Now, I'm not sure how disappointed Bears fans will be that Jay Cutler's going to be out of the game for a
He's
couple
always
of weeks.
going to be Jay Cutler.
Surprisingly enough, as you would expect, he injured himself trying to make a tackle after throwing a pick. So,
What's the one rule? If you throw a pick and you're a quarterback, same as a kicker, run over there and act like you're going to try and make a tackle, but just stay out of it.
There's
man.
a lot of one rules.
Don't do it.
I think that's what he was doing, but he still did his hamstring.
yeah, that's the
Jeez.
life of Jay Cutler at the minute.
And then Romo?
The significant one was Tony Romo, obviously. Didn't influence the outcome of the game, but missing Tony Romo for reportedly 8 weeks with a broken clavicle. That's serious stuff. You know Romo, no Des Bryant, we know DeMarco Murray's gone, so
I don't know if you guys know or not, but Brandon Whedon is a bum. Like, he is terrible, this guy. So.
I did hear Jason Garrett trying to talk him up, so it'll be interesting to see how he goes when teams are able to actually plan for him.
Oh, it's gonna be ugly. I feel sorry for the Cowboys.
But, I mean, I guess fortunately Dallas have got off to 2 divisional wins, so that's going to give them a little bit of a leg up, but it may be some tough times over the next 2 months.
Yep. And how about the Monday Night Football game? The Jets forced 5 turnovers. Tommy, what do you think?
This was a huge shock for mine. I mean, I think everyone was expecting Indianapolis to go in there tonight and turn things around. Big Monday Night Football game, and I know we're going to mention it later on with our predictions, but I had Andrew Luck going to have a big night, and that certainly wasn't the case. He had 3 interceptions.
Didn't throw a touchdown until the fourth quarter.
Yeah, 5 forced turnovers. And interesting stat, Luck had the second most turnovers last year in the NFL behind Cutler. So
Actually,
your boy Cutler.
I heard a stat that Andrew Luck, at this point in his career, has more turnovers than any quarterback in the NFL.
The reflection of
heard
lack of a run game may contribute to that.
I think everyone's just expected Indianapolis to have such a good start, but such a great year as well. I mean, they've come up with some really good defenses in the first 2 weeks. This AFC East is stacked with really good defenses, and I don't know if it's more of a reflection on Indianapolis being not clicking and being bad, or if it's New York being so good on defense.
That's a good point.
Leonard Williams, I mentioned to you earlier, Josh, looked like he had a good game and he's finding his feet there in New York. But, I mean, it's easy.
14 points in 2 games.
Yeah, so it's easy to get at them when you've got those blokes in the backfield like Revis and the other boys.
If Luck's on your fantasy team, you might want to start looking around, as I'm doing.
What, pass him off here?
I wouldn't have.
I'm saying looking around for another option.
Okay. I've got Stafford.
He was my second pick, and it was.
That's a great segue there, Josh. Sorry, Drew.
I know we look alike.
We look exactly the same.
So fantasy football. So like the Jets, 2 of you are 2-0. Don't know how it's happened.
Yes.
Tom,
Josh.
your team is essentially flanked by Rodgers and Julio.
Yeah.
But you also have to be pretty happy with Justin Tucker.
Yeah,
he's bringing you, 12 and a half points
Look,
a game?
I'm stacked, and I was able to sit around a cob on my bench this week. That's how well I'm going. So, obviously, had a huge week, 2-0. But just touching on a few what to watch out for, that I mentioned last week, Nathaniel, was
just a little give yourself some credit.
I was trying to give myself some credit, exactly right.
Okay.
I said Carson Palmer to continue his good fortune. He had 4 TDs, 3 to obviously Larry, but Julian Edelman, I said, would have a big game, 97 yards and 2 scores.
Yes, he did.
And got a touchdown out of both Tyler Eifert and James Jones from the Packers. So, yeah,
Not bad.
tick and tick.
Some good stats there, but let's get back to your team.
Yep.
So, who's on the trading block?
The only couple of guys let me down in the middle. I traded at the start of the year to get Greg Olsen on my side. And I just thought, especially with Kelvin Benjamin going out of the Carolina side, that he'd get a lot more touches, but it just doesn't seem to be that way at the minute with Super Cam. He seems to try to be doing it all by himself at the minute. So,
Successfully.
Successfully he is. So, Greg's not getting the ball, so he's certainly there and thereabouts on the trading block. And I just thought, well, he's not really on the trading block, but Jeremy Macklin would want to get going. He's
but not on the trading block. Right?
Well, I'm going to give him one more week, but
So he's on notice.
he's certainly on
Big
notice.
fan of the show too, Jeremy, so we might have just lost him.
Shout out, Mac Dog. Yeah, shout out.
And you have a big matchup this week with Josh.
Yes.
So we won't mention who you beat this past weekend, but you've got some underperforming running backs today. Your wide receivers starting to stand up a little bit.
I mean, I guess in fantasy football, you're not going to have, across the board, you're not just going to dominate. So At the moment, my backs are struggling, but I went with a wide receiver, first 2 picks, so I've got to expect that.
Still good enough for you, mate.
I've got Arian Foster in the wings and Todd Gurley as well, so I'm hopeful that they can step in the next, 2 to 4 weeks and help me out. But my wideouts are getting the job done.
So who's expendable?
Which is why a man without a catch yet this season. He didn't play week 1 and he went catch-less or receptionless on the weekend. Is Mike Evans. So he's available for my fellow fantasy
I might have to
players that are
listening.
Okay.
I might have to give you 3 players.
He's an undoubted red zone threat. I've got no doubt he'll get going, and I'm happy to keep him. But if anyone wants to get a hold of Mike Evans, give me a ring.
All right, and then Drew. So besides your New England players, tough week.
Yeah.
And you have a tough matchup, really tough matchup coming up this weekend.
Oh, I think the Yahoo points would say something different about that, Nate.
Well, we all know what projections do.
Yeah, so my New England connection of Gronk and Gostkowski did really well. And my first round pick, Jamal Charles, was all right, but he had 2 fumbles. It's unbelievable. And I, for some reason, did not draft a good wide receiver at all. So, however, I'm just trying to pick guys up through the waivers. The one guy that I'm trying to get rid of now is
Is he good?
Wait,
Andrew.
wait for it.
it's my running back. He just got injured from Atlanta.
Tevin Coleman.
That's him. He
There
did.
we
He
go.
broke his rib. So nobody's going to want him. And I really have
Should try to
nothing.
grab his backup if he. No, he's not available. I'd scrap him.
No, I mean, I've got DeAndre Hopkins and Kendall Wright as my wide receivers. So as their quarterback does well, so does my team. But
And Kendall Wright did pretty well this past weekend, didn't
yeah, he had 1.7.
Very
points.
good.
Fantastic. Thanks
So
a lot.
Lift Kendall.
So who's on the line? Coleman.
Yeah, Coleman's all the only
That's
person.
it.
He'll be dropped.
Everybody else. I'm gonna have to drop him regardless. But everybody else, I still want to keep because it's somebody said I've just got a bunch of home run hitters, which I do.
Who said that?
I had 60 points on the bench, right? Like guys that I didn't think were going to do well. Fitzgerald had 29 points. Crowell had 13. Bolden had 12.
Or you stacked?
Well, I'm just they're sitting on the bench.
So you need a wide receiver.
I need a couple of wide receivers. You got any?
Jerry Macklin was on notice, and
All
so was
You're
Mike.
more
More
than
than happy to have him and Greg Olsen.
Well,
for
you guys
Gronkowski.
don't want anything I got, so I'm not really sure.
I wouldn't mind Gronk.
All right, fellas,
Not
change of
getting
pace.
Gronk, right?
Change of pace here. How about some college football?
Whoa.
We're going to discuss a bit of Alabama first. So I think we'll lean that one to you, Drew.
Roll Tide, as they say.
You guys really like to do this, don't you? So, Alabama since 2012 has played nine top 15 teams.
Here we go.
And the record, just give me a minute, man.
Excuses coming out.
It's not excuses.
Okay.
I'm just giving you stats. Since 2012, since we hosed Notre Dame in the national championship,
Yes.
we've played 9 top 15 teams,
Yes.
and we have a record of 4-5.
Oh,
Oh,
How about that?
is that a championship team?
that is not the number I expected to hear.
Exactly.
Out of
That's exactly right. So could be some trouble in Titletown, as they say in the NCAA ranks. We had fans walking out in the third quarter. We were down by 20, but we came back, right? We came back. That was the one thing that I liked to see was the fact that there are not a lot of stars on this team, but we had fight. We lost by 6 points. We had 5 turnovers. They scored 24 points off of turnovers, right?
All right, Josh. Leonard Fournette.
The beast, yes, the beast from LSU. Bama didn't want him. God knows why.
No, Bama did want him.
He's unstoppable.
We tried to get him.
It's easy to say that now.
He's from Louisiana.
You didn't want him.
He's getting mad.
Oh, my God.
If only you could see how red Drew was at the Fournette, unbelievable day. 228 and 3 scores.
Fantastic.
That was in 2.5 quarters.
Yeah, they subbed him in the third. Yeah.
Might I add, he got a little cork or a nick up somewhere, and they took him out of the game. He actually is the $4.50 favourite for the Heisman. I had been thinking about unloading a truckload of money on him, gamble responsibly,
$1
earlier. But now he's into $4.50. It's probably a little bit too short. But there are some extremely good running backs in college football at the moment, but Leonard Fournette has to be at the top of the heap.
Agreed. And so the rankings after this week, a bit of an interesting lineup here. Number 1, Ohio State, or the Ohio State. 2, Michigan State. Boy, they've been strong. And then we have two tied at third, Ole Miss and TCU, and then Baylor at 5.
Let it also be known that LSU got 1 vote for number
First
1,
place,
and
yes.
Ole Miss ranked up 11 votes for number 1 with
Yes.
that win over
But
Alabama.
the interesting
Paul
one,
Feinbaum
the
did.
interesting one there is Ohio State, Michigan State, 1 and 2. I mean, they're both out of the Big Ten. I mean,
Well, they're
they-
headed for each other.
Well, they will play themselves
That's right.
in the coming weeks. So,
I reckon Michigan State will win that game.
But say they do, can you see 2 teams from the Big Ten making the playoffs? Absolutely not.
No way.
It is interesting that the number 1 team has a quarterback controversy, though.
Oh, it was one of those embarrassment of riches.
never
Isn't
won
it?
But first week and leading into the season, it was because they were all so good they didn't know who to play, and on the weekend they were both poor.
There's a good story about Cardale Jones changing his Twitter account name to third string backup quarterback on the sideline.
Yeah.
During the game. Good story. Read about it.
Well, it'd be interesting. I reckon you've got to stick with Cardell. I mean, the ceiling's so high, so I reckon you've got to play one of them and say this is the stretch you're going with instead of.
And with a running back like
Flipping
Ezekiel, I mean, you've got that comfort of knowing that you got a strong run game.
I just think if you're number 1 in the country, you've got to have some stability at the quarterback position.
If anybody's going to knock off Ohio State this season in regular season, it's going to be
Michigan State. Who?
I said regular season. They don't play a strong regular season.
So if they do have a loss to Michigan State, but a good loss to Michigan State, can they still get in?
No, it's only going to be one out of that conference. The only conference that could have two teams coming up would be SEC.
All right, moving on to the 2-minute drill, boys. Some pretty interesting teams have started the NFL season 0-2. And history tells us that 12% of 0-2 teams actually make it to the playoffs.
Ooh.
That's not a good number.
Baltimore, we have New York Giants, Philadelphia, Detroit, Seattle, and Indy. Josh, talk to us. Will Baltimore make it?
I don't believe they will. Typically, the AFC North teams beat up on each other, and Cincinnati are off to a 2-0 start. Baltimore obviously zip 2. They play each other this week. Especially if Cincy go in and win that, go to 3-0, and Baltimore drop to 0-3, they are done. So I'll say no.
Very good. Drew, how about those Giants?
Well, as you know, being a Patriots fan, I'm not necessarily a big fan of the Giants, but the Giants have a lot of positives to look forward to coming out of these last 2 games. They actually are doing okay, even though they haven't had a very good game. So I would say they would make it.
All right, Tom, the Eagles.
The Eagles, I'm going to go with no. I just think they don't really know their identity at the minute.
They got the Jets this week, too.
They got the Jets this week, so I'm going to say no with Philly, but yes with Indianapolis.
All right, JJ, your Lions.
In my lines, they might be someone else's lines if they keep this up.
Especially against Peyton this week.
The offense is not working. Stafford's getting beat up. He may not even play this week. He's got a shirt full of sore ribs. If he doesn't play, they've got no chance against Denver. They may still lose that anyway. They have been on the road the first 2 weeks of the season, so you can forgive them for that. But you would love to split those road games and be 1-1. But they're not. They're 0-2. And with Green Bay, a runaway winner of that division, I think, and it pains me to say it, they will not make it.
All right, Drew, very quick here. Seattle.
Seattle's at home this week against the Bears. The Bears are a dumpster fire. Seattle will be fine. I don't like Seattle, but they're going to make the playoffs. They're Seattle. You know they are.
All right, and then Tom, Indy, Tennessee.
Yes, Indianapolis will make the playoffs. I think that it's just inevitable that they'll get things rolling. They've got too much talent on that roster, so
And
yes,
a weak
come on.
division. All right.
Very good, boys. We got that one.
That's a 2-minute
Touchdown.
Now's the time of the podcast to have a little bit of a look back.
Oh,
So we had some short things last week, and they were everything but. So Drew picked the Titans to continue to roll. JJ picked Adrian Peterson and Megatron to have over 100 yards. Tom had Andrew Luck with 300 yards and 3 TDs. And I had Amir Abdullah, 100 yards, 1 TD.
Oh.
So how did everyone do?
Well, is that worse? Is Abdullah having 6 yards worse than Luck having 3 turnovers?
Well,
It's either you got it or you didn't.
yeah, true. If we're going to compare things, I think I get a tick.
Yeah,
because but AP had 134 and 48 yards receiving, so he had it.
Well, to be fair, I said Mariota was going to roll as well. He was 21 for 357, 2 touchdowns, but he was sacked 7 times.
Boys.
So I wouldn't necessarily say it was Mariota's
Boys.
fault. He still rolled.
Boys, 0-4.
All right.
0-4.
0-4. All right. So what are your short things for this week?
Well, mine. is that the best defensive player in football forces a fumble from Jameis Winston this week.
What, you think J.J. Watt's going to swat one out? Oh, man, how
He
good would
will
that
get
be?
one
I would
off.
love that.
He will get the ball out of Jameis Winston's hands.
'Cause
and
Jameis-
he may take it to the house.
Yeah, because Jameis is not fast. Jameis is not quick. Jameis is a big boy.
And
And J.J. Watt
has
is
wheels.
J.J. Watt is all of
But
those.
Drew, as you said, he's a baller.
He is a baller, but so is J.J. Watt, dude. That guy plays offense and defense.
Just an add-on, J.J. Watt may or may not be wearing a helmet when he does that.
Yeah. There it is. All right, Drew, yourself?
Okay, well, I don't know if you guys probably don't know this, but there's been a long phrase as Brandon Whedon is a bum, okay? And he has been for a long time. He's going to be the quarterback playing against Atlanta this weekend, and he will have a stinker. If he doesn't throw 3 interceptions,
He'll throw 4.
they're gonna run the ball. The the Cowboys are gonna run the ball all day and live and die by it because they're not gonna allow Brandon Whedon to turn over the ball.
Okay, so
like he normally
Whedon for
does.
3.
Quick question a week. Where do you go to school?
He's a
I'm
Cowboy.
sensing some unbelievable hatred.
Oh no, he's just a bum. He was a bum in university.
Oklahoma State, though, right?
Yeah.
All right. Tommy, your sure thing.
My sure thing, it's going to link up to our 2-minute drill, which you just mentioned, but I'm going to go with the Eagles and Detroit both going to 0-3. The Eagles got a tough week against the Jets this week, and Detroit have got a tough encounter against the Broncos. So I think both those sides are going to slip to 0-3, and it could be turnover city for Sam Bradford and the Eagles, I reckon.
Very good. Well, hopefully your sure things don't go to 0-3 also.
Yeah, that was
Nice,
sort
mate.
of
I like
the
that.
theme of my pick.
Zing. My sure thing this week is Amari gets 100 again,
Yeah, go, Mari.
and at Cleveland, and AP gets 100 all-purpose and 2 TDs at home versus the Chargers.
Whoa,
Wow.
whoa. So Amari, you're going to get 100
Oh yeah,
on Joey Hayden.
Yes, he is.
yes, he is. All right,
Fucking ball.
and let's look back at our pick'ems now. I had the Bills over the Pats. We all know how that went. Josh had Indy over the Jets.
Yeah.
Drew had the Seahawks going 0-2. Tommy had.
I got that one right, didn't
Yes.
I? Hey!
Yep, ding ding. And Tom had the Ravens to bounce back. Drew, since you had the correct one last week, what's your pick'em this week?
Take the Giants. So,
Beat the Skins. Woof.
yeah, take it. So the Redskins actually have the first ranked defense. However, they're 28th ranked in passing. So I think the New York Giants are going to do it. They're going to come back here.
All right, Tommy.
I'm going to go with my beloved Patriots to really put down the hammer on those
that scares
Jacksonville
me.
Jaguars.
That scares me that you do that because anytime that somebody goes against the Jaguars, what happens?
Well, hang on.
It's unfortunate.
We're
that-
talking about the assassin. he ain't going in there and getting done by
TB12, let's do it. Come on.
Jaguars.
It's actually unfortunate that Tom looked off my notes here because I picked the Pats to beat up on the Jags.
Oh, good.
And if it's unfortunate that Tom and Nate picked them, I also picked them.
Wow.
There we
All
go.
right.
All right.
So definitely don't put your house on it then if that's what they say.
Well, let's move on to something a bit more positive. Our bets of the week. Tom, who do you have this week?
Yes, I've got a little 4-game multi here. I'm going to go with the Steelers, the Chargers. I'm going to cover the Patriots and cover the Giants. So that pays $15. So gamble responsibly and throw a couple of bucks on that.
Drew. The $1 bet man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you're paying $13 on a multi, you can do that kind of stuff.
Awesome. I'd love to win $13.
Yeah, of course you would. Yeah. So I'm going to take the Bucks to cover as an underdog the 6.5 versus the Texans. I'm going to take the Pats to cover the 13.5 versus the Jags. I'm going to take the Cards to cover against the Niners. The Cards have been really hot right now.
My Cardinals.
And the Chiefs to cover as an underdog 7 points. That pays 13. So I don't know if you got $10 to spare. That's a couple of steaks, isn't it? Really, I just put $1 on it. That's a Big Mac meal.
All right. Josh.
Yes, I also, a lot of Patriots love. I'm going to take the Patriots to cover the 13.5.
Boy, we're gonna lose now.
The Chargers to win head-to-head and the Bengals to win head-to-head. $8.66. Put 1,000.
Well, they're going to lose.
Put
I
1,000
haven't
on it.
put any wager on that with
Put
you.
1,000 on it.
Jeez.
I'm going to take the Vikes over the Chargers at home.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Philip
Houston at
Rivers.
home over the Bucks.
Mm-hmm.
the Bills to bounce back and beat the Finns on the road. And
Big guy.
That's
the
gonna be a
Pats
good
to cover
game.
the 13.5.
Yeah.
And that's paying $7.93.
7.3 for that, because the Bills Dolphins game. Either way.
That's going to be a really good game, Bills Dolphins. I reckon that's game of the week.
And so could you're going to go the Vikings.
Hopefully, there's a couple of bucks in there for
Oh,
everyone. listening.
Chargers are good on the road. We'll see. That'll be a tough one.
Oh,
All right, well, that does it for this week, episode 4. Make sure you check us out on our social media channels, Twitter at In the Huddle AU, and our Facebook page. We have all of our links to Audio Boom, obviously Josh's blog.
Website, yes. www.joshjenkins04.com.
Does anybody say www anymore? Isn't that just a given?
Well, I don't reckon Tom would type www.
I'm with
HTTP
you,
colon / /
I'm with you, Drew.
And make sure you get in your guesses for this week's competition. Again, we're looking for the final score of this week's Thursday night game, Redskins v Giants.
For a football song by myself, Tom Lynch, and the one and only Patrick Dangerfield.
Yeah, and you guys do us a favor and share it on Facebook. Get it around. Get your friends around it.
And
Man.
Josh, just a quick one. Have you got another? You had a new article this week on your website?
I did, yes. Put one up today, the top 5 stories of, or top 5 storylines from week 2. So jump
Fantastic.
on there, have a read, leave a comment, and I'll 100% promise I'll get back to you.
Check it out. Have a good week, everyone.
See ya.
Peace.